welcome to the ICT Pulse podcast. I'm Michelle Marius, your host and the editor and publisher of ICT Pulse, the online platform where we discuss ICT issues from a Caribbean perspective. We are continuing our series on financial technology, Fintech in the Caribbean region, and today we will focus on Kanoo Pays. Launched in 2017, Kanoo Pays Bahamas Limited, more commonly known as Kanoo Pays, offers digital wallet services and is licensed by the Central Bank of the Bahamas as a non-bank electronic retail payment institution. However, what does that mean? And how is it improving the lives and livelihoods of Bahamians? We're going to find out. And to help us to do that, we're delighted to have Nicholas Rees, the co-founder and chairman of Kanoo Pays, to give us some insight into Kanoo, the Bahamian fintech landscape, and Kanoo's plans for the future. Nicholas, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to discussing fintech and Kanoo and how we're hoping to empower the Caribbean. So thank you.
Fantastic. So, as much as I just gave a little snippet of what Kanoo is, what, in your own words, what are you trying to do, and why was Kanoo created?
Well, essentially, and as you mentioned, it's a bit of a mouthful. We are licensed with the Central Bank as a non-bank electronic retail payment institution. Officially, is what they call us. And so, what does that mean? Essentially, we're an e-money provider, a payment institution, and we're licensed by the Central Bank of the Bahamas, and we have more or less a lot of the same criteria and responsibilities to the public and monitored by the Central Bank. So that, takes us a bit above or beyond the traditional fintech that would just be deploying non-licensed services. But that element provides a different layer of safety and trust for the public in the delivery of our technology services. But essentially, we're authorized to issue electronic money. And that's what the license distinguishes us as. We were born, I would say, in 2016, 2017, and really out of a need to service persons in the Bahamas with technology and mobile and digital payments. So in the Bahamas, we have a much like if you were to extrapolate the entire or look at the entire Caribbean, we're a string or an archipelago of islands. And so the same geographical challenges that exist in the wider Caribbean are replicated in the Bahamas on a much smaller scale. And so that really presented us with an opportunity to look at how do we bridge the gap to service the family of islands with technology solutions. And this is basically the crux of the driver for the why we were born.
Yes. You said how Bahamas might be reflecting what is happening in the Caribbean on a smaller scale, but I wonder if the opposite is true, because you have so many islands, some of which are inhabited, some may not be as developed as others. And here it is that one is trying to provide the service over the entire jurisdiction. And so that in and of itself may have its own unique challenges. But before I probably pursue that, I wanted to just ask more generally, is that since there seem to be quite a few, digital wallets and e-money providers in the Bahamas, how is Kanoo able to distinguish itself from the pack?
So our biggest distinguisher is, the fact that we have a multi-tender wallet. Our wallets are not singular in our delivery. So we offer your ability to house your various debits and credit cards. We have our own closed loop token. We also have digital gift cards, digital coupons, and points all built into this multi-tender wallet. And then where we really close the gap is really by providing an ecosystem. So everyone has, as you say, everyone has a digital wallet and a payment system, but you really need an ecosystem to foster connectivity and trade in a digital environment. So where we distinguished ourselves in the launch was to really focus on building that ecosystem so that businesses have a place to reside in the digital environment as well. And so we deploy what's called an audience relationship manager for our businesses, which acts, looks, and feels just like online banking. However, it has all of the digital marketing tools, the customer engagement tools, the customer relationship management, the payroll features built in. So businesses can you know, on any given moment, they can create digital gift cards that they can distribute to thousands of individuals instantaneously. They can receive payment. They can host their products in app on the web, as well as in a singular or segregated marketplace. So it's really in driving the business services and turning on the ecosystem of products that is connected to the users with the wallets where we distinguish ourselves from everyone else. So we're building ecosystems to connect individuals and businesses across the Caribbean to drive and foster trade and e-commerce versus supplying a digital wallet. And so that is the key distinguishing factor between Kanoo and any other fintech, I would say, digital wallet that we look at and we see in the Caribbean. And so we think that is essential. We need you need places to spend. Businesses need users in the system. We've got a little bit of this chicken and egg, and so we want to create infrastructure for persons to prosper and engage in the digital world.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm still trying to process all of what you've said because I think we don't fully appreciate the importance of building an ecosystem because here it is. For example, if I have a digital wallet, it may allow me to interact and transfer money between the wallet and my bank. But if I wanted to pay a credit card, even with the same bank or with another bank, it's a problem. And if I wanted to do some other transaction, it's a problem. And if I needed to transfer money to my, I guess if we lived in larger countries where you had like transit systems and you needed to pay for, bus pass and all these sorts of things, I can see. So therefore, you almost don't need to do or go anywhere other than being in your Kanoo wallet.
Right. So I come out of a generation, I was, born in 1982. So I come out of a generation where, you still used to have to remember your friend's telephone number. We saw dial-in internet come in. We kind of watched this whole mobile revolution. And ever since the app started coming out, I always felt like, why should I have a million apps on my phone? Right? I'm sure this could all be put into one. And so that's kind of like what we're looking to do is to bring all of those services, the transit services, the airline services, the public services, the business and the merchants, and pull all of that data into one platform and then to pull all of the individuals into the same environment and to enable them through a unique experience to simply connect and consent with one another in a safe environment so that they provide efficiency to their lives, which converts at the end of the day to more value to them, to more money, to more empowerment, to more business, to more sales. And at the end of the day, is really through a connected ecosystem that technology will be able to thrive versus hopping out of one to the next to the next. We would like to, we're working on bringing in television services, insurance services, banking services, all directly into the mobile app. In the Bahamas, we were lucky enough to have launched or to witness the launch of the world's first central bank digital currency, the sand dollar. And so we incorporated that as well into the environment to enable businesses to take advantage of it as well as users to take advantage of it. However, our position is to remain tender agnostic in that we are not pushing or driving any particular tender. We would like, and when I say tender, I mean mode of just clarification, mode of payment. And so we want to give our users across the Caribbean user choice in tender. So whether or not you want to use a central bank digital currency, you can go ahead and use that. If you want to use your cryptocurrency, you can go ahead and use that. If you want to use the Kanoo mobile money or your debit card or your credit card, or if you just want to use a cash token, gift card, we want to enable user choice at the user level as well as the business level in enabling them to accept multiple tenders. Obviously, cross-border international payments connectivity is something that is key to driving that connectivity as well.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I'm quite excited by what you're trying to do. But let's just start to there. You said a lot, so I'm going to be dissecting it and coming back to it all the time. So, born in 1982, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you came to this point where you are part of this fintech. I gather, having done a little research, you were an Olympic swimmer. And I'm even wondering, so how did you go from all of that? And here it is that entrepreneurship is, very uncertain from where you started.
So I had a lot of time face down in the water and with time to think.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, seriously. So yes, I am a former Olympian. Swam for the Bahamas, 100-meter butterfly in 2004 Olympic Games. That afforded me, a number of opportunities, obviously, not just in the Bahamas, but also internationally. Had a scholarship to Ohio State University. Was able to train with some of the best in the world and in Spain. Picked up a second language, and obviously this, ability to travel exposes you quite a bit. And it puts you in different networks and relationships around the world that you wouldn't normally find. And so that helps you as well with, your initiatives. And so you know, my journey, so to speak, in this, how do they get to this point? Sometimes I'm kind of, confused about that myself. I mean, I think the best way that I could explain it is to just really, and I tell people it's important to be in tune and to trust your journey and to follow, God's guidance essentially as what it comes down to be able to find what your purpose is and your purpose kind of evolves over time. And so you may think, and so I think it's just all like almost a very natural fit. Everything with Kanoo, the way that we came about was extremely natural. It was extremely, it was almost as if it was ordained or pieced together, not by man. And so there are 7 core founders with Kanoo. When the opportunity presented itself, we came together and we collaborated around this spirit of bringing a collective genius together to do something better than ourselves together. And so that took on an energy of empowering others and collaboration, and that is what the core spirit of Kanoo is, even down to the name of Kanoo. Kanoo is a shortened form of our natural, our cultural identity, our parade called Junkanoo, which is an annual parade which goes all the way back to the days of slavery, when the slaves in the Bahamas would have one day off a year, and this would be Boxing Day, and they would celebrate by uh, dancing and music, and there's a particular type of music, a particular type of costume, and it's come from out of West Africa. It's all about freedom, and so we took that element of freedom, of empowerment, and we wanted to bring that into the daily lives of people and to give them the financial freedom and the empowerment in business. And so but we wanted it to be Bahamians or originating in the Bahamas, but for the Caribbean. So we had to we couldn't call it Junkanoo, so we had to drop and call it Kanoo, which we thought it was also unique that it kind of dovetailed with, the canoes that the Arawaks and the Lucayans used to use, so to speak, to physically connect the Caribbean and once upon a time. So now we have a digital canoe to connect the Caribbean, and it's all about doing this collectively, doing this together with our Caribbean brothers and sisters, and we've begun now to expand and offer the technology to some of our Caribbean brothers and sisters, and looking at St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana as well right now. And so that has been extremely exciting as we branch out of the Bahamas now to find that, hey, there are like-minded persons outside. There's, and then looking at the challenges that they have, and breaking that out across the, CARICOM region. Like, we really believe that together with technology and the right approach, we can solve each other's problems. We can connect different markets, and we can provide more access for ourselves as a region. And we really want to make a bigger, better impact, and show, be a beacon of light for others to follow, essentially. And the way we did it was through collaboration. And that's I think that's a new mantra in business, where, we feel sometimes in the past, we more want to hold on to as much as we could. That I think in the way forward, I think that model is going to change, and persons need to adopt more inclusive, more embracing mindset towards their business partnerships and the way that they launch their ideas and their vision, because leaders are limited by the law of the lid. There's only so much that you could do. There's only 24 hours. Like, you have to expand that. You have to empower others. You have to bring others along. And others have to benefit. Everybody has to win. And so that's kind of where we're at. I think I ran a little bit away from your question a bit, but yeah, sorry.
Fantastic. And I really appreciated the last bits you were saying about collaboration, because recently I had a conversation with a woman out of West Africa, Pinamano Usubanahine, who was featured on one of our episodes. We have a Tech in Africa series, and we're talking about setting up businesses. And what she was talking about was from the West African perspective. And so many times we feel as if we have to go out on our own. We have to go into new markets on our own. And it's so important that strategic partnerships are forged, especially, I think, in the Caribbean region. We're just focusing, let's say, on the English-speaking Caribbean. We speak the same language. We share a common history. So you think that we have a lot of commonalities, but there are also nuances and idiosyncrasies that the locals know about, and they appreciate what might be different about themselves. And so when you mentioned about challenges, one may talk about and know intrinsically about some of the fintech related challenges. For example, whether or not you need to register with the local central bank and what that might entail in terms of the process and what their requirements might be. But then there are also challenges that often don't get spoken about, such as the consumer, with regard to the consumer, their attitudes and perceptions. And that's not always captured on paper or in ways that could be readily accessible by an outsider. So you really need to have people on the ground who are able to help you navigate those things. And I appreciated that.
No, 100%. You are so right. And that is a big part of our expansion strategy. We will not go into a country or a territory without a local partner or local persons vested in the technology, vested in the vision. And that is multifold, right? There's multiple reasons for that, as you mentioned, the local on the ground knowledge, but also our vision of empowerment. Like we don't want to come to Guyana and not have the Guyanese people have an ownership in the technology being deployed there. We don't want to go to Trinidad and the people in Trinidad not have an ownership in, right? And so it's all about ownership and empowerment. At the end of the day, we would love to be in a position to have 40 million people on the platform and be able to turn around and offer those 40 million individuals direct ownership in the technology. I think this is technology that's being built by us, for us, and to protect us and to enable us in the future of technology so that we are not subject to outside technology. We can build our own technology to service our own needs and challenges. And at the end of the day, enable us to own that. And so that is what this model is all about, right? If we enable businesses to set up within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, you can be up with your products, owning your own business and making money and engaging a tourist market, engaging persons in another country. I think that is empowering in and of itself. However, the model is how do we get to a point where we can have 40 million Caribbean nationals with a direct piece of their own major technology platform. And that can be done through a crowdfund switch at the end of when we get to that point. So that there's a roadmap and there's a vision, but how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And so it's just step by step by step by step. And so we're enjoying the journey. And it's been exciting, but also very challenging to date.
Okay, so let's just pivot a bit again and talk about just fintech in the Bahamas, the fintech sector in the Bahamas. 5-7 years ago, I really would not have pegged the Bahamas as a hotbed for fintech. Yes, it had been and has been a big player in the financial services, international banking industry. But fintech, who would have thought just, a few years ago, the role that the Bahamas is playing in this exciting industry?
So, I mean, yes, who would have thought? So, I mean, we're, pretty proud of that, all that we've done in the Bahamas, being obviously the world's first central bank digital currency jurisdiction to launch was a pretty special moment for us. In addition to the DARE Act, that the Bahamas has kind of taken a leading role in the regulation of cryptocurrencies and crypto exchanges, and I think that is evolving the learnings and lessons from that industry, and I think that's kind of, indicative of where, where the Bahamas wants to be in terms of servicing an international clientele, expanding beyond traditional financial services to embrace technology. I think we have far to go, not just in the Bahamas, but the wider Caribbean. I see, opportunities for collaboration across the regions in terms of, you know, assimilating or, our regulations, our regulatory regimes, enabling expansion of licensed entities across territories to provide access and inclusion for the entire Caribbean. I see a lot of opportunities for synergies there, and certainly a lot of opportunity to learn from what we've done in the Bahamas, and that's kind of what we're leveraging that the lessons and the beatings that we've taken, so to speak. We as we go out, we're sharing those stories and taking our technology and all of the lessons that we have learned to our Caribbean brothers and sisters in the territories that we have expanded in so far. And that has been proven to be helpful in overcoming hurdles in go-to-market strategies in those regions, as well as, you know, even to some extent working with some of those regulators to say, hey, this is what worked in the Bahamas. This didn't work. This is something you may want to look at. And that is actually even fostered and those regulators to now look at, hey, maybe we need to change this policy or this particular wording in this act to enable our objective. And because this is new to all of us. And so as we all learn, it's important for us all to be collaborative and embrace one another so that the rising tide raises all boats. And that's where we want to be. And that's kind of what we preach in business, going right back to, partnership, collaboration, empowerment, working together. These are core to what we do and everything that we do.
Yes. And I mean, certainly I think sometimes policymakers can be a little naive. And so we want to pursue something and we don't always sort of take into account some of the challenges that could emerge. And so I think certainly some of the challenges, for example, that the Bahamas, the fintech industry in the Bahamas has experienced, and the learnings then, has been beneficial to us all, because I think it really just shows the sort of vigilance that we need, and just remind us that to be measured in our approach and thus not to be overly naive. I think that is what I think. So there has been, I think, so much benefits to the Bahamas, being in the lead and helping us to see what is possible as it relates to fintech.
Yeah, no. So I definitely, I think charting the way and leading in a new industry always comes with, its bumps and bruises. But I think if you look at the Caribbean as a whole, I mean, compared to the rest of the world, we are pretty advanced. We have 3 central bank digital currencies in the region. One by the Eastern, Central Caribbean Bank, Eastern Caribbean Bank.
Yes.
You've got Jamaica with the CBDC, as well as the Bahamas. So in our region, we've got 3 CBDCs. And we have a number of digital wallets out there, and it's just ripe for technology adoption in the Caribbean. We haven't looked to ourselves much. I mean, we talk a lot about CARICOM and working together and trading, and I think the Bahamas has traditionally been outside of those conversations.
Right.
And I think should probably be a bit more inclusive or embracive of those conversations. But again, like as we expand from a private perspective, a private company perspective, we're really seeing synergies amongst all of the nations in terms of, hey, these guys over here have a challenge, but there's a competitive advantage over here that if we could connect, we could kind of solve those challenges. And so that's the way that we're looking at it. We're taking a very measured approach to just building the infrastructure and the technology and stepping forward and saying, here's a playing field for us all to connect, for us all to trade, and for us all to empower one another and to benefit. We have also, a revolutionized digital food, digital benefits delivery to persons in need. So we have taken a social service, that's, for example, food or uniform assistance or rental assistance, and we've completely digitized that process, which comes with full transparency, full accountability, full trackability and traceability, and accountability at the end of the day for persons overseeing that system and persons being involved in that system. And what we also found was that we also restored dignity to those individuals on social assistance and food assistance. So if you could imagine, whereas before you would stand in line to register, you receive a paper voucher or a food stamp, and then you'd go to the store, and then you would be constrained to a physical food stamp for your food purchases, which also came with loss of value, because if you didn't use a full dollar, your bill came up to 68 cents. You still got charged for the full dollar, right? So now we have basically digitized that whole process. Those, thousands of individuals receive their food assistance with the click of a button directly on their mobile phones. They can go into any food store, and now that experience of pulling out a physical voucher at the register is now, you're now included into this nice, cool, fun, sleek, I guess, unique way to pay, and you now look ahead of the pack, so to speak. And so that was an interesting dynamic, in addition to also being able to empower the small mom and pop stores in the over the hill, underserved communities to now be a part of this social aid, because we found in the Bahamas, persons would walk past the mom and pop store to go to the bigger store, but they had the same items. So we just included those stores in the program so that they would now be able to be aid distributors right into the communities, right where individuals needed. So we expanded economic empowerment among small and medium-sized businesses, whilst engaging the public in a real and authentic way to basically deliver food assistance and digital benefits to our public, and now expanding this throughout the region. I think it's something we're really excited about it, and we have actively now two major conversations ongoing, and then also in LATAM, we've been contacted to bring this digital system to LATAM as well. So very exciting time for us, but again, all in alignment with empowering people and making lives better for you.
That's fantastic. And in mentioning about the CBDCs, I wanted to just ask a question, because yes, the region might be in the forefront of CBDC launches and trying to roll these things out. But I think across the region, where in the countries that have CBDCs, the adoption has been relatively slow, which also I think is happening in the OUR as well. I saw some recent reports about how the use of CBDCs, the sand dollar, is projected to be considerably lower than probably last year, and so on. But do you have any sort of thoughts about why adoption might be slow, when perhaps, people are more receptive and using their phones and their devices in all sorts of other exciting ways?
So it really comes down to education and access, right? So one, people have to know about the central bank digital currency. What is it? What does it do? How do I use it? Where do I use it? Um, what are the implications of this new money? So there's the educational component is paramount. That's your foundational pillar of adoption. Um, After that, then you need you have to foster and deliver an ecosystem. So you can't deploy the currency in a vacuum. The currency has to be deployed with merchant system, user wallets, and government a GovPay system. And so this is where we call it building out infrastructure, building out the rails for the future. That's kind of where we're focused, is on preparing these infrastructure rails for adoption of the future. So if you were looking in China, China was well adopted. Why was China well adopted? Well, China basically implemented a forced adoption model whereby they had governments doing payroll. They enabled the entire community. In the Bahamas, we've taken a measured approach. Our CBDC, and every country will evolve its own CBDC model within its own framework. That's your country's sovereign right to do that. So in the Bahamas, we originally took an approach where your digital dollar should be no different than a physical dollar. So it should move the same. It should be no cost to transact. And so that was essentially the initial principles upon which we rolled out. And so that element is something that we build around, and we keep that close to our heart per se. But essentially, your main supply of currency in a country is the government and banks, right? By loans and government payroll. So if you're not doing payroll as a government, and you don't have your banks and institutions pumping out loans in this currency, the currency adoption is going to be slow. Persons also need to understand and be educated, and see the value in it. So what we did in the Bahamas, it's completely free to transact on the CBDC rail, save and except for the businesses that have a processing feature, and much like a credit card, they would pay, but albeit at a much reduced rate. That also facilitates connectivity directly to the banking infrastructure. So persons that don't have a bank now can have access to push and pull, receive monies, and be included. And it's valid legal tender within the country. So for those persons on the family of islands where, rather than flying plane loads of cash all around the paper, it has a real use case for now, including and enabling those digital transactions. So I think it is new as well, and so you're going to see this adoption. The adoption for CBDC is going to be slow, as countries take, especially in the Caribbean, take a more measured and stepped approach to implementing it. So this is one of the reasons why, from our perspective as a super app and a super wallet provider, we want to enable user choice. So here's a wallet where you house all of your tenders, and you can experiment with, you can play with, you can engage. You have a facility to be able to accept and to send on the CBDC rail. So you will not be excluded. However, you can participate and engage to the extent and manner in which you choose. So we want to give you the choice to be as included in that particular element of the monetary system as possible. And for us, that's important. User choice, protecting our users is paramount for everything that we're building around our wallet features and our infrastructure rails.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, the ecosystem becomes increasingly important, I think, especially as it relates to the CBDC. I also just wanted to touch on, especially since you shared about giving dignity to people and really helping to bring the micro and small businesses into the pool of of being fintech users and facilitators. And I wondered about whether or not Kanoo, whether in the Bahamas, I don't know whether as you expand across the region, have you begun to experience the challenge of the types of devices that people have? Whereas many of us who might be listening to the podcast would have a smartphone from one of the popular brands, the well-known brands, probably one of the later versions. Because I think we have the market for the supply of digital devices quite open. You're finding all sorts of devices coming onto the market at varying price points, but different functionalities. And thus, how have you all been able to facilitate inclusion and accessibility under those circumstances?
Right. No, definitely. Yeah. So we've encountered all the devices in the Bahamas. Funny enough, and I think this trend exists throughout the Caribbean. Most people have multiple phones, and so we have our system it works with most of your updated phones. There are some older models out there that are out of range and probably just need updating or replacing. But we find for the most part, Caribbean persons in the Caribbean are well versed, are well up to date with their mobile phone technology. We are very mindful that there does exist a segment of our society that does not have access to phones, right? And so in this environment, what we do is we are enabling wearable devices as well as physical cards that act as your digital wallet. So right now I have here, I don't know if you can see, so this is my Kanoo kind of payment ring, right? So it's a ring, it's a payment ring, and it basically links to my debit credit card. I can also link it to my CBDC card, or if I wanted to link it to my crypto wallet, I could link it there as well. But we are launching this technology in the Caribbean, enabling other financial institutions with this technology as well. But we also want, persons that don't have a mobile phone to be able to receive digital distributions and benefits. It comes not just in a ring format, but watches, earrings, hats. So we can take any device or wearable, and your glasses that you have on, we can make your glasses a payment device for you. And so these are some of the unique things that we envision, just providing user choice. What is your favorite way to pay? And how do we make it easier for you? How do we include you whether you have a phone or not? One of the technologies that we see bringing to market as well in this space is offline payment capabilities. So what we call two men in a bush. So how do two men in a bush with no connectivity pay each other right? And so we have some offline card technology that we're bringing to market, that we're engaged with right now, that we want to enable for the Caribbean, because we know not just your device is a challenge, but also connectivity may be a challenge. And that essentially is the last mile for digital adoption, is connecting that payment bridge or that connectivity when not connected. So again, another exciting time for us. And one of, building off of that, from the device component, is now looking at your biomet yourself as an authenticator, which is the ultimate in security protection, and fraud protection, um, for all of your financial services, right? So if you could imagine a world where you yourself in your liveness is the authenticator or the consent provider for any financial transaction, any digital transaction, any technological portal or door that you or anyone must walk through. If your liveness and likeness is the consent behind that, um, that essentially is the ultimate in fraud protection, for digital wallet providers. And so we have a very interesting technology that we are bringing to market that is going to enable you to own your digital identity, and to also in the future make money from the use of your data by those big companies that are using your data, and will also enable you to see what data is being used, what data, and allow you to turn that data on or off, but enabling you through your own liveness, right? Your biometric liveness. You must be alive and present in order to enable any transaction. So no one can steal your data, essentially. Your data is locked down and controlled only by you and accessed only by you. And so that is the evolution of what we're thinking, where we really think now, okay, this is something really special, where we now, you become your own passport, you become your own wallet, and everything exists with you as your liveness. And no, it's not a chip. It's not a chip. It's technology, and it's you. Your existence as a human being must be present, in order to transact. And so that's something exciting that we are also looking at bringing to our brothers and sisters.
Interesting. And I mean, all right, so talk to me about the wearables. How has that come to market as yet? I mean, I see you have the ring, but what about the others? I mean, what's happening there?
So we have been testing it. It is live in the market, but just within a closed, just within the founder group. So we're testing it now, and working out the user experience and how we would like to deliver it. We're also having a couple of conversations with some other financial institutions that would like to deploy the technology under their own branding. And so again, we're working with them to kind of map that out, what that looks like as well. So, 2024 should be an exciting year. We have been head down building a lot this year, moving around quite a bit and putting a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together. And so next year, first quarter, second quarter, we're really looking at, you know, bringing some of these, technologies into the world, per se, outside of our test ground.
Understood. And as we begin to draw our conversation to a close, just I think two more questions. What have been some of the important learnings for you, perhaps personally, and for Kanoo so far on this journey?
So, personal learnings for me on this journey was that the biggest thing I learned is that in order for a company to grow, the founders must grow. And this is as much a journey of business growth and evolution as it is personal growth, spiritual growth and evolution as an individual. Um, Learning how to deal with the challenges out there that exist. It's not easy as an entrepreneur. Um, you have to have a mindset of never give up, overcome the obstacles, go through the fire, and trust that you'll come out the end of the day a bronze statue. I think, this is that is be the biggest takeaway, is, in an entrepreneurial journey, stay committed to the growth of self, and your biggest asset really is your people, and the resources there, um, human resource management and managing and working with people. And then again, that all ties right back to your own personal and spiritual growth. So that is important. That's been the biggest take back. The humanness, the human approach to everything. Your organization, and then even that to the deploying technology. Right? We can't. Oftentimes, we think we can just pick a technology off the shelf, throw it, launch it, and it goes. No, there's an entire human element to that, right? And so you've got to understand the internal human elements as well as engaging the external human components of literally holding the hands of your clients, your users, your customers, and educating them, walking that user journey with them, you know, bringing the human element to technology. That's from the Kanoo perspective, that's the biggest learning. From my personal perspective, it comes back to the human element as well. So that's and growth, personal
Yes.
growth.
Yes, and I really appreciate that. Just on as you said, I mean, sometimes when you're in tech, you think that we focus so much on the technology and how exciting it is and all that it can do. And, I guess the people around you may all love it and you think that everybody's going to be receptive to it. But that does not often fly in a business. Somehow the human element is still something that we can easily overlook. So I really do appreciate those learnings from you. And just my final question, where would you want to see Kanoo in the next 3 years?
In the next 3 years, I would love to see Kanoo with an integrated platform across at least 50% of the territories in the Caribbean, with licenses in the various regions, and a regional shipping model and logistics model built in that ties into a regional shipper, so that now through our marketplace in app, we can have persons selling products in Jamaica, being bought by persons in the Bahamas or Trinidad or Guyana, and then being shipped by air and by sea direct to those persons' doors. That's essentially where we would like to evolve the Kanoo model. And in the same app, you'll be able to get your loans, your credit facilities, buy insurance products, health insurance, the works.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, I want to take on that shipping and logistics, but it is the dream to be had, because I think so many of us are struggling with just the cost of shipping and transmitting goods across the region, in the cost, but also the time, because we don't even have the routes established to efficiently move across the island, around the islands. So, but it is the goal. I am with you on that. So I give you all of the support, and hopefully, I think hopefully we will get to a point where we begin to solve those critical problems, because it is still so crucial for the individual and collective growth of all of our countries.
Yes, no, I agree, and so I'll take your challenge, and when it's time for the shipping and logistics, we'll make sure we connect and reach out.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for joining us and for sharing about Kanoo's journey so far and the vision, because I think so many times we don't often have an opportunity to sit with Caribbean founders and understand what they're trying to do and what the big picture is. So I really just thank you for taking the time to share that with us today.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here, and I hope it was beneficial. I had a great time talking to you, and I wish your listeners all the best. And as we close everything off with Kanoo, we say, power to prosper. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the ICT Pulse podcast. You can find links to some of the things we talked about on our website, ict-pulse.com. The music is from the composition The Last Word, We Ma Chérie by Andy Narrell. If you like this episode, please show your support by leaving us a 5-star review, as it will help others find the show. You can email us at info@ict-pulse.com or drop us a note on social media at ICT Pulse, either on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We hope you'll join us again for our next episode. Take care.